Guys, please confirm to me. All of you get my voice on screen. Good morning, guys. Good morning to all. Please confirm to me. All of you get my voice on screen. Right, sir. What we completed, guys, in the last class? What we completed there in the last session, or tell me? Okay. Discussing about throw keyword and throws keyword. Two things here we completed. Okay, fine. I had an interview yesterday and it was asked that question. Exception handling is targeted at what? At compile time error, runtime error, logical error, all the above. Ajit Kumar, Neeraj, right? This is the question, right? Who has asked this question, sir? In which company, sir? This question, no? What is the company name, sir? See, exception handling targeted at compile time error, runtime error, logical error, all the above. What is this exception handling targeted, no? And what are the options here? What is this targeted actually? So that question meaning is totally wrong. Wrong meaning what they have provided. I think so. Their main intention is exception handling is going in at one time, or maybe at like exception in the sense what might be something else they have to ask, but that question is giving different meaning. So anyway, answer for that is what? Now you only tell me, as you understood in the last class. Tell me, guys. Then exception handling is targeted at exactly right answer. Runtime. Runtime only. In Java, Max, everything is going on at runtime. Okay, right, sir. That's fine. Maybe the way they provide the question in a bit different manner, they have to provide in a bit understandable manner. They have to provide. Exception handling is not targeted anything. Then they have to ask the definitions. Maybe what is an exception or exceptions will come at what time. Something else like they have to ask, but they might be in a different view. They are asking. It's okay, fine. Anyway, then their intention and their expected answer might be runtime, not compilation time. Sure. As I discussed with you, even checked exceptions, in the case of checked exceptions also, only notification we are getting that exception may occur at runtime like that, but exceptions are always occur at runtime only. Right, leave this one. Now, yesterday I was asked one question, guys, and I explained some program also. What is the difference between throws keyword and throw keyword? Throws keyword and throw keyword. This is a question, guys. So for that, I'm giving clarity, no? Throw keyword can be used to raise an exception explicitly as per the requirement. Throw keyword can be used to raise an exception explicitly as per the requirement. But what is the purpose of this throws keyword? Throws keyword can be used to bypass the generated exception from present method to caller is one type of handling. Throws keyword can be used to bypass the generated exception from present method to caller. This is one type of handling, but this is not perfectly the exception handling. This is point number one. We can understand now. All right, so now point number two, what I'm telling to you. In general, throw keywords will be used in a method body, method implementation. In general, throws keywords will be used in a method prototype, method declaration part. In a method declaration part, we are able to use it. Okay, fine. That point we can understand it clearly now. Right, sir. Throw is raised by developer and throws is raised by J. What is it? Raised? No. Meaningful statement is required. Throws is raised. Throws will not raise any exception. No, throws will not raise an exception. Throws functionality is just it will move forward exception from present method to the caller of that method. That's it. It will not raise any exception. But throw keyword can raise an exception. Right, sir. Next one is then after that. Point number three. Point number three. What next one, guys? Then after that, after completion of this, throw keywords is able to allow only one exception name, but throws keywords is able to allow more than one exception name in method declarations. Maybe possibilities are available, more than one exception name. Okay, fine. Present method to caller method in the sense which method is calling. See, yesterday already we discussed one program for it. If you observe that yesterday program, there it is very clear that what is caller method and what is present method. Already I discussed about this point. Yeah. Chandrakant, now observe this clearly. Actual exception we are getting in append method. Actual exception we are getting in append method. So who is caller for append method? Chandrakant, you only tell me who is a caller for append method? Who calls append method? Add method. Okay, add method has append method call. That's okay. Caller is add method and Kali method is what? No, append. Next one is add method is called by which method? Which method is calling add method? Add method is called by which method? Main method. So here main method is what? Caller method. So because of this throws keyword, exception is bypassed from append method to add method. And because of throws keyword and add method prototype, exception is bypassed from add method to main method. Because of throws keyword, that exception is bypassed from main method to caller of main method. Who is calling main method? Who is calling main method? Who is calling main method? JVM. So JVM has some default exception handler internally. JVM has some default exception handler internally. That default exception handler will display that all the exception details at all 3 lines now. That we already understood in the last classes. Leave this point, guys. So this is what we completed in the last sessions. So next one is then after that, after completion of this, that Mahesh and understood your question. So the totally we are thinking in the point of predefined exceptions. In the case if developer wants to raise an exception, then what developer has to do? Yes, Mahesh. Then for you I'm responding. No, developer wants to raise an exception intentionally. That is a requirement as per the application requirement. In some situations we have to raise the exceptions. So developer has to raise the exception. To raise that exception, developer has to use throw keyword. Throw keyword will be used by developer explicitly. So by that automatically developer has to raise that exception. Right, exactly. Right, sir. Predefined exceptions, that internal exceptions, internally predefined exceptions, if anything is available, then JVM will take care about it. JVM will write that exception. But as for the application requirement, if you want to raise any exception explicitly, there we have to use throw keyword explicitly. That's it. Anyway, leave this one. Try catch finally. Guys, all of you have to this clear. Just I'm going to give some description to you. By that, we are going to complete this part. Try catch finally. Everybody understand these points now. All of you observe carefully. Guys, what throws keyword is doing now? Tell me what throws keyword is doing. Is throws keyword is a handling exception really? Really, is throws keyword is a handling any exception really? Is it handling any exception really? Right, sir. No. Throws keyword is not handling exceptions really. Throws keyword is not handling exceptions really. Right, sir. But what it is doing now? What it is doing? It is it forwards or it bypass exception handling responsibility to some other exception handling responsibility to some other. But my requirement is in Java applications, if you want to handle in Java applications, if you want to handle exceptions, if you want to handle exceptions, the location, if you want to handle exceptions at the location where exceptions are generated, there we will use try catch finally. Real exception handler in Java is what? Try catch finally. Real exception handler in Java is what? Try catch finally. Okay, observe carefully. The real exception handler is like what? No, let's just wait a minute of time. Right, sir. So if you want to handle the exceptions at the location where exceptions are generated, there we will use try catch finally. There we are going to use like what? No, try catch finally. This is the purpose of, this is the meaning of like what? No, requirement of try catch finally. That's okay, fine. What is this? One minute, sir. I think now it is clear, guys, right? Is it clear? Is my voice is clear now? Okay, fine. And next one is finally. Here we are going to write a set of intersections. Here also we are going to write a set of intersections. Here also we are going to write a set of intersections. Right. Now, what is the work of default exception handler? Fayaz Ahmad. Some predefined exceptions are handled by JVM, right? Say yes or no. Some predefined exceptions are handled by JVM, right? How JVM is handling that exceptions, no? How JVM handles that exceptions? Through default exception handler only. The default exception handler is available internal inside the JVM, it will handle it. Okay. So as a separate component for handling that exceptions. That's enough. Come for it. Try catch finally. Alright, so now inside this try catch finally, what is the purpose of try block? What is the purpose of try block? Guys, all of you observe this clearly. What is the purpose of try block? What it will do? It will try block. It will include doubtful code. It will include doubtful code. Doubtful code in the sense, what is the meaning of doubtful code, guys? Now tell me. Just I'm giving the word doubtful code. What is the meaning of doubtful code? Exactly. Varun, right, Varun Kumar. The code where there is a possibility of getting an exception. The code where there is a possibility of getting an exception. Okay, now I'm giving clarity. Now I'm giving clarity, no? Then what is the point I'm telling to you? 100 lines of code is available. 100 lines of code is existed in my program. Totally my program contains 100 lines of code. Can we keep all these 100 lines of code inside the try block? Come on here. Are you going to provide total 100 lines of code, the total entire program inside the try block? No. Then which code we have to keep inside the try block? We are not going to keep all 100 lines of code inside the try block. So which code we want to keep inside the try block? What is that risky code? Risky code in the sense, what is it? What is that risky code? People are using the word YouTube terminology. Yeah, that's why I'm using the doubtful code. Doubtful code. That means out of these 100 lines of code, I have a doubt on 10 lines of code which may raise an exception. I have a doubt on 10 lines of code. Out of these 100 lines of code, I have a doubt on 10 lines of code which may raise an exception. Still, I'm not confirming. Definitely here exception is rising. Exceptions may be rising, may not be rising. But I have a doubt on this particular piece of code. Right, sir? Where exception is going to rise is a risky code. In the word risky code, I'm thinking, sir, the risky code in the sense I'm not getting some different meaning. Don't say that risky code. A doubtful code, at least there is a meaning for it. Doubtful code, I have a doubt on that particular code, it may rise an exception. A doubtful code, okay, at least that risky code in the sense the term is giving different meaning. Your terminology is also very good, sir, should be good in front of that interviewer. If you are giving this type of terminology, that interviewer may not accept, think about it. Okay, anyway, then whatever it may be, out of 100 lines of code, some lines of code I'm getting doubt. So there may be chances are available to get an exception. I'm thinking this particular piece of code may raise an exception. That I'm calling it the doubtful code. Even the doubtful code term is also be I provided. I'm thinking I'm giving that code, doubtful code. But actually there is no such kind of terminology. So in general, what we are getting the information, keep the set of finish sections which may raise the exception inside the try block. Keep the set of finish sections which may raise an exception inside the try block. That's it. That's why I called it as a doubtful code. Now I'm giving clarity on it. Doubtful code in the sense a set of finish sections which may raise an exception. It will include doubtful code. Okay, fine. That is one point. Second point is like what now? If exception is coming, then what will happen? If exception is not coming, then what will happen? If any exception is identified in a try block, then if any exception is identified in try block, then JVM will bypass flow of execution to JVM will bypass flow of execution to catch block. JVM will bypass flow of execution to catch block by passing the internal generated exception object as parameter. Right, sir? Internal exception is generated. Internal exception is raised by using throw keyword on internally. JVM will do that. Then whatever the exception object is generated, that exception object reference value will be passed as parameter to catch block. This is the point here we have to understand. Next one is, if exception is available, then flow of execution is coming to the catch block. That's okay, good. If no exception is identified, in a try block, then what will happen now? If no exception is identified in try block, then what will happen? Come on, guys. If no exception is identified in try block, then what will happen? Then, if no exception is identified in now try block, then JVM will execute the complete try block, comma, at the end of try block. At the end of try block, JVM will forward flow of execution to finally block by skipping catch block. Where catch block will not be executed, directly JVM will bypass flow of execution to finally block. Good. This is the point, guys. Just for your understanding purpose, I'm going to give one simple representation also. Simple diagram also I'm going to provide. Now try to recognize this point now. For example, I'm going to provide a set of finish sections are available here. Here we have an exception. Then after that, something else, except name reference variable is existed. So many sections here we are able to have. Next one is finally block. Here also be a set of finish sections are existed. Then after that, like this is the code here what we are having. What is the flow of execution now? First, before try will be executed. Inside the try, before exception will be executed. When exception encountered, flow of execution will come to catch block. Internal exception object will be generated. That exception object reference value will be passed here. JVM will create exception object internally. Corresponding exception object. that exception object reference value will be passed as parameter to catch block. When exception is encountered by JVM, internally JVM will create an exception object. It will raise that exception. Then flow of execution will be passed to catch block. That internal generated exception is also be passed as parameter to catch block. Now catch block will be executed. When catch block is executed, then after that it will execute finally block also. After this finally block also, remaining instructions are going to be executed. But here which block is not executed, sir? Now tell me guys, which block is not executed here? Which block is not executed? Exactly inside the try block after exception part is not executed. Inside the try block after exception part is not executed and all remaining things are executed. This is the flow of execution when we are having an exception inside the try block. Right, sir. Next one is then after that, after completion of this. Right, sir. Exception raised if it is checked exception. Faiz Ahmad, try block is not raising any unchecked exception. Try catch panel is not handling unchecked exceptions. Huh? Only it is working for checked exceptions, no? Right. Next one is then after that. Same code here I am providing. Now here we are getting no exceptions. No exception is provided here. Then how flow of execution is going on now? Just we can understand it. First as is before try block everything will be executed. Then try block will be executed totally. No exception is raised. When no exception is raised, immediately at the end of the try block, flow of execution will be bypassed to finally block. Then finally block will be executed. Then after this also, after finally also, instructions are going to be executed. After finally also, instructions are executed. Now here, which block is not executed here in this case? No. In this case, JVM is not executing catch block. JVM is not executing catch block, and all the remaining instructions are executed. Right, sir? This is the flow of execution of try catch finally with exception and without exception. If you have any exception, then if you have any exception here, then right from exception, the location where exception is raised, from that directly flow of execution will be passed to catch block by skipping remaining instructions inside the try block. Catch block will be executed, finally block will be executed, and after finally is also be executed. Right, sir. Next one is after that, if no exception is available inside the try block, before try, the total try block will be executed. Then flow of execution will be bypassed to finally block without executing or by skipping catch block. Finally block will be executed. After the finally, some intersections, if you have any intersections, they are going to be executed. Right, sir. Try catch finally for both checked and as well as unchecked exceptions. For both we can use, not only for checked exceptions. Okay. Right, so now this is like what I'm telling you, the totally try catch finally flow of execution. We can observe this clearly. So this is the total awareness on this try block. Next one is what about this catch block is? What is the purpose of this catch block? No, point is very clear. It will catch exception from try block if exception is raised. Then what is the main purpose here now? It will display exception details on console. It will display exception details on console. How it will display exception details on console, guys? Now observe this clearly. To display exception details on console, we will use three approaches. What are the three approaches here we are able to use? To display exception details on console, we will use the following three approaches. What are the three approaches here we are able to use? First one is public void print stack trace method. Second one is public string toString method, that is sys.out println of exception reference variable, and the third one is public string get message method, or else simply we can understand sys.out println of exception reference variable dot get message. Right, sir. Overall three approaches are available. Good. What exactly the difference between all the three approaches now? Observe carefully. Print stack trace method, it will provide or it will display exception message includes name of the exception, comma, description of the exception, and the location of the exception. Exception name, exception description, and exception location. That is the purpose of like what? No, print stack trace. All three exception details here we are able to get. I will show programmatically. I will show all the three things now. Next one is it will return or it will display. It will display or it will return name of the exception and a description of the exception. That's it. It will display name of the exception and description of the exception. Location of the exception is not provided by toString method. That means sys.out println of exception reference variable. When we pass a reference variable as parameter to the sys.out println, internally toString method will be called. The toString method of exception will be called. Then it will display, it will return exception details like name of the exception and description of the exception. Next one is public string get message. Public string get message method. What it will do now? Right, sir. It will return or display. Sys.out println statement you are using, that's what display. It will display only exception description, exception message, exception description. It will not display the name of the exception and the location of the exception. Simply, it will display exception description. Only description of the exception here we are able to get. Only description. Okay. This is what exactly the difference here we can understand. Now just I will go for an example. So that I will display that values now. You can understand. That's it. Sorry guys. Right, sir. I'll show an example here on the base of this. Now try catch finally. Finally, namesake I'm writing. I don't want to provide anything. No. Now here inside this what I want to know. Int I is equal to 100. J is equal to 0. Float f is equal to I divided by j. Right, sir. Now here I want to provide e dot print stack trace method. Sysna dot println of e. Sysna dot println of e. Next one is again one line space. Then after that, Sysna dot println of e dot get message method. That's it. So all the things here I provided. Finally block, I'm not going to provide anything. No. In my try block, I'm able to get an exception. Come on, guys. Now tell me which exception here we are getting. No. Which type of exception here we are getting. No. Rows keyword is not required. Even if you provide that, nothing is going to be happen. Okay. No. Not tell me. Which exception here we are getting is not tell me. What is that exception name? Arithmetic exception. That exception name would be like what? No. Arithmetic exception. Okay. Let me execute this. All the exception details here we are able to get. See this e dot print stack trace method. Java.lang arithmetic exception is the name of the exception. Slash by 0 description of the exception. Yet tester.java colon 8 at 8th line here we are getting now location of the exception. Okay. Right, sir. Next one is Cessna.println of e. Cessna.println of e. Cessna.println of e. What it able to do? No. It calls internally toString method over the exception reference e.toString. The toString method returns name of the exception and description of the exception. Name of the exception and the description of the exception, that what we are getting. Right, sir. Name of the exception and description of the exception. Next one is it. Cessna.println of e.getMessage method. Cessna.println of e.getMessage method. Then what it is providing? No. Slash by 0. That means only description of the exception. It is not providing name of the exception and it is not providing location of the exception. Just it is providing like what? No. Description of the exception. Right, sir. They are the points now. Right. So this is overall the way to display like what? No. Exception details inside the catch block. Print stack trace method, Cessna.println of e, Cessna.println of e.getMessage. They are the three things here we can understand. Right, that's okay, fine. Next one is here. After that, after displaying this exception details, then after that, what next one here? No. Finally block. Finally block. What is this finally block, guys? In JDBC, we are going to use this finally block frequently. But what is this finally block? What is the purpose of this? Okay. Finally block is able to include a set of finish sections. Finally block is able to include a set of finish sections. Which must be executed by JVM mandatorily. Which must be executed by JVM irrespective of getting exception in a try block and irrespective of executing catch block. Whether we execute, whether we are getting exception or not in try block, whether we execute catch block or not, that doesn't matter, but finally block will be executed. That's it. Yeah, he is acting as reference variable, Mahesh. He is acting as what? No, reference variables. Yeah. Final block is able to include a set of intersections which may be executed by JVM irrespective of getting exception in try block and irrespective of executing catch block. In our Java application, if you want to execute any code mandatorily, whether we are getting exception or not, that doesn't matter. Whether we are executed catch block or not, that doesn't matter. But I want to execute a set of intersections minimum. Mandatorily, I want to execute a set of intersections. Then go for finally block and keep the intersections inside the finally block. So finally block will execute intersections compulsory. That means mandatorily. That's it. This is a point here, what I'm telling you. So how I'm going to utilize this finally block, or maybe then another point here I'm telling to you. If you observe this total flow of executions, no, in both the flow of executions, if you observe this, out of try catch finally, which block is executing minimum? In these two diagrams, no, out of this try catch finally, out of these three blocks, which block is executing minimum? Mandatorily, which block is executed? In both the cases, the total try block is executed or not, there is no guarantee. Total catch block is executed or not, there is no guarantee. Kani there is no guarantee to execute try block or not, there is no guarantee to execute catch block or not, but which block will be executed there mandatorily? Catch block minimum. No. Which block will be executed? Finally block will be executed. Finally block will be executed minimum. That's it. So this is what exactly the meaning of this finally block. So in general, in Java applications, we are going to use some resources, guys. In general, we will use some resources like what? No, streams, comma, database connections, and so on. In Java applications. In general, we will use some resources like streams, database connections, and so on in Java applications. Right. At the end of the applications, we must close these resources. At the end of the applications, we must close these resources. Okay. If we use try catch finally blocks, if we use try catch finally blocks, if we use try catch finally blocks along with the resources, then we must provide all close operations of the resources inside finally block. Why? Because what's the reason for it? Finally block is giving guarantee for execution. Finally block is giving guarantee for execution. Right, sir. So what will be the priority? Try catch finally or throws keyword? Guys, now this is the question. Throws keyword is available and try catch finally is available. Which one is recommended to use in our applications? You know already. What throws keyword is doing, sir? Nothing. But try catch finally is doing some work over the exceptions. It is doing some actions. So which one is recommended to use in our Java applications? Is it throws keyword or try catch finally? Definitely try catch finally. Try catch finally is the recommended one when compared with the throws keyword. But after handling exception, then why control flow is not returning back to try block to execute remaining statement in a try block? That was predefined design, sir, that we are unable to change. So they are given that flow of execution in that view only. Understand, guys, what I'm telling you now? they are given the try catch finally flow of execution in that way only. If you are getting an exception inside the try block, flow of execution will come to like what? No, catch block with by skipping remaining intersections inside the try block. But then what is the developer talent here? Identify exact at which intersection we are going to get, keep up to that intersection only inside the try block, not to keep that remaining intersections. No. Answer my point here. That means if the developer is talented, then he has to keep less number of intersections inside the try block. Exactly that exception, exactly that intersection which may raise that exception that he has to keep. He has to identify that exactly intersections which are rising exception that developer has to identify. So that is depending on developers like what I'm telling you, talent. Right, sir. Optional. Minimum. It's optional. Okay. Optional. It's not mandatory. Right, yes. That's fine. And try catch finally that part is completed. Then we have to start directly JDBC. This information is sufficient to start JDBC programming. And if you required any other points from core Java, then non-flow. While discussing about JDBC, I will discuss that. So then what I'm telling to all of you guys, JDBC, I'm going to start on Monday, not on tomorrow. JDBC, I will start on Monday. This prerequisite part is sufficient to move on to the JDBC. I'll take this JDBC on Monday. So not to come for the class on tomorrow and day after tomorrow. So this information is sufficient now, prerequisite part, then we will start JDBC. In JDBC, we require to discuss. If we require any other thing, then we will discuss about it in the future, right? Thank you guys. Thanks a lot. I'll meet on Monday, not on tomorrow and day after tomorrow. On Monday, we will start. From JDBC onwards, on Saturday also, I will take the sessions, guys. Up to Saturday, we are going to have sessions in JDBC. Okay. Thank you. Thanks a lot.